Moving on to topic 4. Once again, we are sponsored by Topps. Thank you so much, Topps. Star Wars Card Trader is the official Star Wars digital trading card app, available now exclusively on the App Store and Google Play. Open, trade, and collect cards entirely online. Your favorite characters, vehicles, and locations from the Star Wars universe can be traded and collected anywhere at any time. Download today, and for a limited time only, get 5 or more free packs per day. Get the first cards from Star Wars The Force Awakens in vintage-inspired 1977 Star Wars designs. Star Wars Card Trader is currently the only place to get Star Wars The Force Awakens merchandise. Collect from 30 years of officially licensed Star Wars trading cards from the vintage era through to today, with new cards being released every single day. Classic moments like Together We Can Rule the Galaxy as father and son, the medal ceremony, I Find Your Lack of Faith Disturbing, the arena battle in Geonosis, all of them are there. Classic locations, Hoth, Bespin, you know what's up. From the team that brought you the award-winning and top-grossing baseball app Topps Bunt, download Star Wars Card Trader today. Head on over to topps.com/kindafunny. That's TOPPS.com/kindafunny. Thank you.
Tim,
What up?
what is the update on the Watto card?
The Watto
Do
card?
we know about the Watto card?
I do not know, but we should look into that. There's a chance it's there.
I hope it's you know, the future version of Watto.
Can you look for us? The Star Wars Card Trader app? Watto.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Use the code topps.com/kindafunny. Thank you.
Don't screw this up for us, Kevin.
All right. So once again, we are going to respond to the user questions and comments. If you want us to respond to your comments, go to the Kind of Funny forums at kindoffunny.com/forums. Go to the Gamescast forum and then leave your questions in there, and we'll get back to you, just like we're about to do to Lucas Betta.
Lucas Betta.
He wants to know, what are the most important franchises that began last generation?
That began last generation.
Uncharted.
Gears.
Yeah, Gears. Yeah, Uncharted.
Assassin's Creed.
Sure. I'm thinking, like, what is
I'm
the-
running through my shelf.
Dark Souls.
Batman.
Yeah, the Arkham games. Sure.
Dark Void.
No, I don't know. I don't know
No, you're
about
not putting
that one.
that one? Yeah,
That game was pretty rough.
Launched in North Korea. Just saying, everybody.
I feel like there's some that were
Resistance.
Grinning like a goon.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, there are more than Dead Space.
yeah.
It was just important franchises.
Yeah.
The most important.
Or the most important. I mean, I feel like the most important are Uncharted and Gears. You know, those are now the two
Synonymous with their franchises.
faces
or their
of
consoles.
the consoles, right? Like, I mean, you know, Microsoft still has Halo, but Gears is up there. It's their other,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's
Whereas
their Halo.
Uncharted, it's hard with Sony because when you think Sony, I don't think there is one game that you're like, yep, Sony, in the same way that Halo is Microsoft.
You don't think it's Uncharted now?
But I think that Uncharted would be it.
Yeah.
If you know, if you had to choose one.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like, Uncharted doesn't have the same. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't have the same thing Halo does in terms of the link to the system. To me,
Sure.
at least.
For a while, they were trying really hard with Little Big Planet. That's from last generation. Too.
Yeah.
We're putting Sackboy out there, but then that kind of feels like it fizzled with Little
Yeah.
Big Planet 3 launching broken and then nobody caring.
Yeah, no one really does care about Little Big Planet. That's true.
For a while, it was doing real hot and then just fell off.
Oh, LBP2 is huge.
Yeah.
But they made a mistake by.
Oh,
Kiss
the
Being
Guitar
and
Hero
Vita
games.
Ing.
Oh yeah.
And Rock
Yeah,
Band.
that's really good. That's a good one.
No, didn't those games
Oh,
start on
fuck,
PS2?
you're right. Yeah, it's PS2. Damn. Well, Rock Band. Rock
But
Band.
I mean, it's still kind of a
Yeah.
That's a splinter of Guitar Hero.
Still, though, I'd say Rock Band's different enough than Guitar Hero
Sure.
that it gets its own nod.
I think you're really giving a nod.
It gets the nod.
I don't know.
I'm
That's
just
all I
like,
can-
Infamous.
Yeah, I mean, now we're just naming.
Now we're
anything.
just getting
we're just
into
naming
things that are.
things.
Now we've gone down the list. Here. Uncharted
All right,
and Gears.
all right.
We should have moved on.
So we're moving on. Interested on your thoughts on Sony promoting a Kickstarter in their press conference. Will this be something that happens again?
Yes, it will be. But and I said this, I think, on Colin and Greg. I was shocked by people's reaction to this because this is something I've been saying for years now. Because this isn't the first time Sony has done this, and
With Amplitude, right?
they did with Amplitude. And they did it
Friends.
with Sports Friends, which was an even bigger example. Because I was like, and I remember saying at the time, I'm like, two and a half, 3 years ago, whatever it was, would be like, this is kind of weird, isn't it? Like they're promoting this game and they have a blog post pointing people to a Kickstarter. I'm like, if you believe in it enough, you should just pay for it. And I said the same thing with Amplitude, which I think was fucking nonsense because they own that IP. You know, so it's different with Sports Friends, which is just a third-party game. They own Amplitude, and they still were like, okay, we'll give you the right to make a Kickstarter for it. So I thought that was weird when that didn't resonate with anyone. I stopped talking about it, so I was shocked. I think people just don't pay that close attention. So like this was like to a lot of people, this was the first time Sony ever did this, but it is not the first time Sony has ever done this. So yeah, I think you'll see more of it. I understand why things are unsavory to people. It is weird. But you have to understand there's a lot of complicated shit with this IP. Sega owns this IP. Sony is clearly going to help fund it in the back end. Probably. It's unclear. I don't know. I don't see how you can make a game like Shenmue for $5 million. Doesn't make any sense. So there are a lot of questions to be asked, but I am more shocked about how people are acting like this is a new thing Sony has done when Sony has done this before. That was the biggest thing I walked away from actually with it.
I feel like it's a game that wouldn't happen without.
I mean, that's
Sony
my thing.
Intervening.
Like,
so can we? I mean, it's like for Sports Friends, a little bit different. Amplitude, a thing you own, but for this game, right, that is tied up, and there's so many different threads to it.
But I mean, even Amplitude would never happen if it wasn't for this. Like that's just a game it's not going to sell that well. Period. And I feel like it's going to sell better because they had a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Like that just kind of brought back the kind of publicity. And I think Shenmue is a perfect example too, where it's like the type of conversations being started now because they're doing this, whether or not they're negative, it's raising awareness for sure.
Right.
You
it's
know?
one of those things like it's similar to when just in general Kickstarter happened and Colin would had problems with it and stuff. I'm just like, well, I want that game. Like it's not going to happen any other way. So, and granted, there's the examples of games that clearly would have happened without Kickstarter. But if this is how this game has to be to make it happen, okay, I'm fine with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess for me, it's like it's definitely unsavory and it definitely is weird. But whether or not it would happen if it didn't happen, if there wasn't a Kickstarter, to me, that's the first thing. I'm just like, whatever. This game wouldn't have happened unless there was a Kickstarter. But on top of that, it's like even if the game would have happened, I'm just supporting the thing I want. Like, if it's just an extra option, you don't have to do it. And it is as unsavory and weird as it is, it's like, whatever. If I want to support this thing, I'm happy there's an option to. You know, it's weird that they did it during their press conference, but at the same time, that's also the best promotion for a Kickstarter ever.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone's watching this thing.
Online,
I'm going to make it announcement
right
now. Go do this thing now. Like, that's business, man. Like, that's smart. Like, it's literally, hey, I want your money right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something that's going to get you real excited. Like, all right, cool.
When I finally convince Shu to give me the Patapon rights and I start my Kickstarter, I'm going to do it a similar way. Probably at PSX, though.
That'll be good. Yeah. I'm excited about that. Dan Phillips wants to know, are we fans of retro game collecting and have we ever thought about doing it ourselves?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I have a big retro game collection. But I feel like it's a thing that will always exist, but the art of doing it is kind of waning because of the digital revolution. So it's more important to me that these things are available digitally for everyone to play at some point, as opposed to having like a cartridge of an obscure game that is only playable on a cartridge. At some point, you have to worry about like making sure these things are here for generations.
History.
Yeah.
Yeah, I respect it. I'm a fan of it in terms of looking in collections and going through people's collections or being at the store, right? Or like whenever we go to a PAX and walking through the little things and like marveling over cartridges I remember, right? But like, do I do it myself? No. Like I really hate having collections. Like I got out of that when I was growing up, I was very much like if I wanted the new game, I had to hustle and trade in other stuff. So I was always trying to cycle out a collection, not keep a library going. And so like when I was back in Missouri this last time, I was walking downtown, I went to Slackers, which is the store in Columbia that resells video games and stuff. And they had this huge collection of Genesis games, and we just got in the Retron. And so I started pulling things off shelves, and I had like 4 cartridges in my hands. I was like, no, put them all back. Like I'm not going down this road of bringing them home to our small San Francisco apartment and trying to figure out where the hell they are for us to do 2 Let's Plays and never do anything again with them, right? Like I try to keep games over there on the shelf, and that means something to me, like a bunch of Master System stuff, right? And a signed copy of Infamous, and I took a photo over the last week of Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1. Like,
yeah,
I try to keep the stuff that means something to me, but everything else I'm not too worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously am a huge fan of that stuff because I love retro games and I'm a hoarder when it comes to this shit. And I like collections. I like collecting things and I like having physical stuff. So the idea of having all the games that meant something to me, even in a small way, like just, I rented that once. You know, it's just like, that's weird, but it means something to me. And even just having it, there's something about having it that I'm like, I love this. But then it's like, you really got to question, is this worth going down this rabbit hole? Because I know how I get. And like, if I bought Crash 1, well, I'm going to need Crash 2 and 3.
Right.
You know, if I buy Spyro 2, I need to buy the first one and the third one, even if I didn't play the third one. You know what I mean? It's like I have this completionist thing in me where it's like I need to just go crazy with all of it. And that it's the same thing with my Blu-rays. It's the same thing where it's the reason I try not to buy comics because that's just a rabbit hole of death.
Yeah.
You know, but when it comes to the retro games, it's like I know one day I'm going to cave, and I know one day I'm going to spend thousands of dollars buying all my games.
I can envision a future where I have like a cool man cave theater or whatever space you want to call it, right? Where it's a nice TV and like all the consoles like are organized out and accessible. And when I do that, like, you know, having Kevin come over and drill through the back of the wood to have it all go down one hole for every system and then like the walls being shelved and having everything. But that's like not possible in San Francisco. That's when we sell this company to Google and I go retire to Columbia. You know what I mean? Like,
so it's interesting, but I definitely do really, really respect the people that do it. And it's always interesting to see how into it they get. And like when people get like Sam Claiborne at IGN, I mean, like whenever he gets excited about these random things that I never heard about, I'm like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know, like there's this whole ecosystem of people that like buy and trade and like all that stuff. And I'm super interested in that, even if that's definitely not something I don't care about having something just because it's rare.
Yeah.
I do care about having the rarest version of things I care about. I love that I saw this happening. Bless you. Yeah, Colin looked very concerned for
I don't know
a
where
second.
that came from.
Yeah, but more importantly, Kevin has updated us.
Uh-oh.
There is a Waddle card.
Yay!
So he's a
deal,
junk
mother.
dealer. That's yeah. Thank you
very
Star
much,
Wars
Kevin.
Tops.
Good job.
Goat Choker
Jesus.
wants to know, why do indie devs suck at announcing release dates?
Because they're a small team.
Yeah, it's hard. I think that a lot of them are afraid to commit to dates ahead of time because they know they can get squashed pretty easily by a AAA release that happens the same day, which is unfortunate. And I also think that they have to send the games through cert and often get games kicked back to them. So certification's hard to get through, and they're typically less experienced at doing it. So when the game's catastrophically broken, and certification is a really rigorous and weird thing for a game to go through, where you have to make sure, you know, do you have the trademark logo after PlayStation every time you use it? Are you using the right button things? Is this clear that this is online and all? Like, there's a lot of random shit that like gets kicked back in certification all the time. And so I think that they're less prone to be able to deal with that initially, and then when it gets kicked back, they have to fix it as opposed to having a whole team of people to fix it. So I think there are a lot of like reasons that they don't want to get too ahead of themselves until they are sure they are ready to go. As opposed to a bigger developer that is confident that they'll push their game gold and send it to cert, and then they'll get through. I think that that probably has a great deal to do with it.
Yeah, totally. I think it's just the fact that it's a huge undertaking to get a game out when you're 4 or 5, even 10, 12 guys.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's hard. The game's done when it's done. And there's less of a reason to announce a release date, too, because you don't have stockholders and shareholders to worry about.
As I was about to read the next question, Kevin then texted me another great image that you're gonna need to show this to the people. All right, please download this image of Boba Fett, who is labeled as a Jango Fett clone, and he does not look cool at all. Oh,
finally, someone's calling him out on what he is.
Good Lord,
a long-haired hippie kid, just out there to fight the galaxy.
Thanks for that, Kevin. All right, Rog Former says wants us to talk about bad ports and how much it matters. Relevant because of Arkham Knight running like garbage on PC.
It matters a lot, and it matters a lot when people like Kotaku or people like Kotaku break stories such as that WB knew it was broken and released it anyway. It's a huge problem. It was, as PlayStation-centric gamers like Greg and I are, we dealt with bad ports last generation, where unless you were getting a developer or a game from a Japanese developer, it was typical that you would probably get the worst version of the game on PS3 every time. Yeah, Bayonetta Final Fantasy 13 was better on PS3. There was a lot of examples of that, but very rare. Bad ports matter, and it sets a bad rhythm for your console. PS3 became known as a place where you didn't play third-party games if you had an Xbox 360 because they looked bad. They ran bad. You got them late. I mean, we got games like BioShock really late. Orange Box was a great example of a game that was awful on PS3. So it matters because then it has a trickle-down effect on the library of games you get in the future, and of course the money that the console manufacturer makes to put out more games in the future as well. So the fact that Sony has nipped that in the bud this time and clearly has the advantage over Xbox One in terms of power means that they now have the advantage that they lacked last generation, which I think matters a great deal. And I think it's proving out in the sales.
Semiotic Love says, how about Recore? Was it revealed too soon considering it is only 14 months into development?
Maybe. I was surprised that it was revealed that soon, but I don't know. I think that Microsoft has to make moves to show that they have a diverse catalog of games, and they certainly do. I think they have the better announced catalog of games of Sony by far, in comparison. But I don't know. I don't know how much Armature has really been able to do in that short amount of time. So the game could only be 15 months or a year and a half away. It's not maybe less than that.
It's not unheard of, but I don't think that. I think that was one of those announcements you put in your press conference to get people excited. That's crazy. I never expected it, but I don't know many people who have been hanging their hats on Recore is my most anticipated game, right? Because it was a cool trailer and that was it. And now they go into the darkness, and maybe next year they come back with.
And I mean, it's good too. Just like, hey, here's a new IP. Here, like we are doing something new.
Yep. Things are coming.
You'll see it when it happens. All right. Last question comes from Indie Rockstar 75. He says, Tim, are you still excited for Kingdom Hearts 3, even though there's still no release date and it seems like it's never going to come out? Yes, we talk. We've talked about Kingdom Hearts 3 extensively on this show. And we're going to keep talking about it because it's going to keep being revealed 10 million times in different ways, But my thing is, specifically this trailer at E3, I've watched so many times. And like even last night, I was at dinner with my friend and I showed him it because like we're big Kingdom Hearts fans, and he's not like a guy that reads gaming sites every day, so he doesn't really keep up to it. And I showed him the stuff, and he's just like, fuck, man, I'm stoked for this. I'm like, yeah, don't get too stoked. Like, it's not coming for a long time. But really, like, looking at the trailer, I'm like, this game looks awesome. Like, the game looks good.
It does look
like
good.
It looks like graphically, it's amazing. There's certain scenes in that trailer that just show how big the world is, and I'm like, good lord. Like, I never imagined a Kingdom Hearts game to be like this. So I think the game's actually going to be really good. And like, if they take a million years to make it, whatever. Like, I don't need to play it right now, and I think that's the biggest thing.
It was the reveal they revealed it too soon. Everyone knows that. It's a big difference between, a lot of people have been asking me about Fallout 4 and how done I think the game is, and I keep telling them I think the game's done. I think that they're an alpha and that they're probably polishing now and getting everything to a fine sheen and fixing bugs and squashing bugs. They announced a game that was done.
Rad bugs,
Rad bugs. They were at the advantage of just sitting on a game for years and revealing it at the right time. The way Bethesda did it is the way everyone should be doing it, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that in the future, as opposed to the Kingdom Hearts kind of scenario, which is the exact opposite. I'm curious about how... I'm curious, you talk about the world and stuff. I'm curious how complete that world is. I'm curious about how vertical that slice was that was shown at... In other words, like, did they polish that to a sheen as you often do with a vertical slice, or is there more of the game that looks like that and plays like that? And my I bet that there probably is a bigger portion of the game that plays like that. I think they're probably getting somewhere now with it.
Yeah.
But it's just such a big difference from Fallout 4, which we only just wished for and was announced, and it's like the way they showed the game off and stuff like that. I'm like, the game's done. Like they finished the game. Now they're gonna like.
Yeah.
The quests all are there, everything's there, the world's there. Now they have to go through and make sure everything works properly. But like they announced the game that was done, and that's why everyone's so fucking excited about it.
Yeah, and it's shitty that Kingdom Hearts is like that. But I feel like a big difference with Kingdom Hearts is that I remember playing 1, and then I remember the wait for 2 felt like forever. And I don't remember the years difference, but I think it was like 4 or 5 years between 1 and 2. Or maybe I was just young and it felt
I don't think it was
way
that
longer
long.
than it was. But then... the wait between 2 and 3, if you don't count all the other ones, it's like, it's been ridiculous. So the fact that they actually even
It'll be
announced
a decade, more than
Kingdom
a decade
Hearts 3, I was like, 2 years ago at E3, shocked that it's like, they did it. They actually announced number 3. This isn't some spinoff. This isn't whatever. It's happening. And I was very surprised with how much they showed during that first trailer. Well, it was all CG and it was all whatever, but there was gameplay in it. Like whether or not, like, I didn't believe that it was real gameplay. It just looked like CG gameplay. But then now that I see this, I'm like, oh, shit, that gameplay that we saw a couple years ago was gameplay. It just didn't have the HUDs and stuff.
Right.
And so you're saying the vertical slice, I definitely do think that this is just what's done of the game so far. But I'm surprised that even that much of the game is in a state to be shown like that. And it was 2 years ago, too, because we've seen other things like that and all the Disneyland rides being, I don't even know, they're not summons, but like specials or something. But either way, I am more excited for Kingdom Hearts 3 than I've ever been. And that's the opposite of Final Fantasy 15, which both of them I've been waiting for about the same amount of time. And Final Fantasy 15's getting to the point where I'm like, am I even going to actually sit down and play this? I don't know. Whereas Kingdom Hearts 3, I am definitely sitting down and playing, and I'm more excited than ever to do that. So
We'll keep being excited. You'll be this excited in
forever.
2 years.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be
And
great.
it still won't be out.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the first and last ever 26th episode of the Kind of Funny Games.
Tim's age.
I'm 26 now. This is weird. I need to get used to it. I'm so used to saying I'm 22.
Just go.
Yeah,
Just go away.
I'm done, dude. I'm done. All right, bye, guys. I love you.
Bye.
Hey everybody, it's me, Greg Miller, and I wanted to let you know Comic-Con is coming up and Kinda Funny is going to be there. So if you're at San Diego, we have a bunch of stuff you can come do with us, and you don't even have to have a Comic-Con badge. On Thursday, we're going to Polite Provisions. We're doing a meet and greet there. 5 p.m. You don't need a Comic-Con badge. You do need to be 21. Don't blame me. Those are the drinking laws in the United States of America. Friday, we're doing the Game Over Greggy show at Petco Park as part of Geek and Sundry Studio Stage. No Comic-Con badges required. We're doing that at 3 p.m. And then I'm moderating a whole bunch of Comic-Con panels if you do have a Comic-Con badge. So come hang out with me in the convention center. All the details are up on kindafunny.com/news, so head over there for the full rundown.